today we're going to go over my November reads and my November TBR, how I did, what I thought, what my star ratings were, and I'm going to put them into categories. So I'm going to like categories like my most disappointing read, my most surprising read, things like that. So without further ado, we're going to go over the books that I actually read. So we'll just start with this one because it's on top. A Court of Mist and Fury. So I rated A Court of Mist and Fury 5 stars because when it's weighed against A Court of Thorns and Roses, this is by far a better book than that, and I gave that one 4 stars. I loved the storyline. I loved the relationship, how it grew between Feyre and Rhysand. So I loved the Night Court. I loved everything. So this, I gave a 5-star read. This one, I would say, if I had to put it in a category, this would be my most predictable read, in that I had a very good feeling that this was going to be, it was like predictably good, based on everything I had heard about it and whatnot. So this was, this is 5 stars for me this month, and my most predictable read. The next book, Iron Flame. I gave this book 4 stars. And I think I gave Fourth Wing 5 stars because everything was pretty original, pretty good. Not even pretty good. Everything was great, and it was relatively original. Iron Flame, there were some things in this book that I was super frustrated with. And in that vein, this was probably my most meh read this month. I just didn't find myself on the edge of my seat like I was in Fourth Wing, and that's maybe not a fair measure. Like, that may not be a fair way to measure it up, but or to measure it against, but I don't know, I guess I expected that same excitement. I will say, I had watched Sid Bookworm's video where she kind of talked about her reaction to Iron Flame. And I agree with her. In that video, she had said, this is most likely a world building book, or not world building, but they're really doing a lot of building. This is a building book. And I totally agree with her on that. There was a lot of things in this book that probably needed to be done if you're going to write 3 more books in this series. I'm going to be honest. I don't know why you would write 3 more books. I don't know why you would make this a 5-book series. I honestly, by the time I got to the end of this book, with some stricter editing and reining in some pretty wild plot twists, this series could have ended with this book probably pretty easily. But out of loyalty for the series, because I'm not ready to give it up yet, I gave it 4 stars. And again, I finished it and was like, meh, I'm glad I read it, but definitely not like a wow book for me. The book that I was the most pleasantly surprised with this month was Dark Roads. This one I also gave 4 stars. There were moments in this book, so we follow 2 main characters in this book, and it's very clearly part 1, part 2, and the only thing that I really got hung up with in regards to this book was when we went into part 2, it switched point of views. So we went to the second main character, and you know how you have, like in the beginning of a book, you build the world, you build the system, you have to give backstory and whatnot. So what hung me up in this is when we switched to part 2 and we went to that second main character, we did that again a little bit. And so it slowed it down for me a little bit. But by the time I got to the end of this book, I was pleasantly surprised. Solid 4-star read for me. Really beautifully written. There are some strong themes that are talked about in this book. So it's really, I would say, look up trigger warnings for this one and see what themes are talked about, because there's some pretty strong, emotionally heavy themes and some violent acts that are talked about in this book. So not pretty graphically, there are some graphic things that are talked about, but I was a little shocked. Not activated in any way, but just shocked reading it. So beautifully done, and my most surprising read, especially since I picked it up on sale for like $4 in my local grocery store. So pleasantly surprised, 4-star read. The next book I want to talk about is Armageddon, which is book 8 of the Expeditionary Force, which I am slowly making my way through. You'll hear me talk about this series probably for the next so many months, because I'm committed to reading at least 1 book a month to get caught up. This was, I don't know, this is probably my most happy read. And happy, like the things that are in the book, the plot and the setting, all of that is not like wildly happy, but reading this series and continuing on in this series does make me happy. So again, this whole series has like been a 4-star series for me. I don't know that I've rated any of the books under 4 stars, except for maybe book 1, Columbus Day, because it's a little slow with the world building. But for the most part, this series has been solid 4-star. I love everything about it. It's 4-star for me because it begins to get kind of repetitive in some things. So, you know, how do you write a 15 to 18 book series without it getting a little repetitive? I don't know. So that one, 4 stars, my most like happy read, for sure. Next is, I think this was my second 5-star read of the month. Yeah, it was my second 5-star read of the month. Red Rising. This was my most, not challenging, maybe challenging read, and not challenging in a bad way. This was my most, this book challenged me because I didn't think I was gonna like it, based on some of the things that I had heard, and the fact that it's like likened to Hunger Games, and there's another book, but I can't remember it. I didn't know if I was gonna like it because I did like Hunger Games. I liked the book series a lot, and so I was like, how do you, it's like Hunger Games on Mars, what does that even mean? Absolutely fantastic book, worth all 5 stars, and if there was a 6-star rating, I might even give it that. You expect it to be young adult. It, in my opinion, is not young adult. It was high fantasy, adult. There were some tough things also talked about in here, just based on like the caste system and how people are treated, mistreated, and the fact that they're all very young. You forget when you're reading this book that they're like 16, 17 years old. So this was my most challenging book for the month in the best way possible. Again, I hope that that is being conveyed. 5 stars, excellent, totally recommend, and I can't wait to move through the rest of the series. My most, probably surprising in a disappointing way was Our Crooked Hearts. I gave this 3 stars because I can't complain with the writing or the structure. I thought all of that was really good. I had no complaints about editing. You know how some books just like they should have went through another round of editing? Not this book at all. In fact, I liked Melissa Albert's writing and her writing style. But the reason it was surprising in a disappointing way is I didn't know it dealt so heavily with some like pretty dark magical themes. And I'm not a prude in the magic department. Like, I'm okay reading about magic and I'm okay reading about fantasy, you know, all those things. But it was like very dark magic. So occult type themes, which I've just never been into. And it got pretty detailed in some of those ways. So it was 3 stars for me because I just didn't like that theme in the book, which unfortunately is like the main theme in the book. So 3 stars for this one. I was surprisingly disappointed by the time I got to the end of this book. So, but if you like those things and that, you know, you read this book and it was 5-star for you, awesome. That's great. Just the one complaint I have with the book is what makes this book. So but still 3 stars. And finally, my most not anticipated, this is my biggest letdown. This book was my biggest letdown of the month. The Invisible Hour. I had predicted to love this book. This was like a 5-star prediction for me. I had, you know, read the synopsis. I thought it was going to be amazing. And for some people, they may have really liked this book. But for me, I was so stinking confused through the whole book. There were pacing issues for me and timing issues for me. And so many times I had questions of like, wait a minute. I thought that what do you mean we've only moved a day? It feels like we moved a week. Like, I just had there were so many times while I was reading this book that I was like, I'm just gonna read past it. Maybe I'll figure it out in the end. I didn't figure it out in the end. In fact, by the time I got to the end of this book, I'm still like, what the heck happened in the end? I cannot tell you what happened in the end with 100% clarity without going back and reading it, because I don't know. I just don't know. So I had anticipated loving this book. I had anticipated this being a 5-star read for me. In the end, I believe I gave this was 3 stars because I can't fault the writing and I can't fault the author necessarily for me not 100% understanding it. It could be an issue with me. I'm willing to say that. But yeah, this one was my most, whenever I said it was. So yeah. This one, I was like, oh, I wanted to love it so bad. And I did. Also on my November TBR was the Atlas 6. And I did start that. I have not finished it. And I think I don't even know if I'm a whole 100 pages into it. But I did start it. I did not read in the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros or For the Throne by Hannah Whitten. By the time the month had gone, or most of the month had gone, and I had to pick between which book on my TBR I was going to start next, I chose the Atlas 6, and the other two, I just was like, the interest just isn't there right now. So, I mean, they'll go back on my TBR cart, and hopefully I'll find the unction to read them soon or put them back on my TBR. So yeah, that is my November wrap up. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments about any of these books, or if one of them that I was like, it's not my favorite, but you really loved it, tell me why. Help me understand, because really, honestly, it could be reader error. You know, that's a total thing. Or if I loved a book that you were like, WTF, again, tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts. So thanks for coming along. Thanks for seeing my reads.